So, so we're gonna have probably the final series in the discussions of the slavery that we are going through, and what is the slavery like that we're living in, and what could be the freedom. Until we do not desire the freedom, the slavery is not gonna be realized. And until we step out of the mainstream, we're not going to realize what we're doing that kind of accounts for being a slave. Like we said, Britishers left, there was a physical slavery. So we got the freedom to choose, but we're still bound to a lot of choices that we're making. So Krishnamurti is emphasizing that ultimate freedom is the freedom from your choices. Whatever choices we're making in life, if we are influenced by those choices, the objects or the people around us, then it's still a slavery. And ultimately, when we come out and we make our own independent decisions, then only a true freedom can really happen. So we have a long way to go before we ultimately become free people. And when we become free, there are a lot of rewards that comes along, and only people who have gone through this enlightened stage, they can promise. But we don't have to go by that. All we have to realize that how much suffering we're going through. And because the suffering becomes a part of our life, we don't realize there is a suffering. So until we really, at least few moments a day, we step aside and try to analyze our life from time to time, it will tell us that what we're doing is just a mechanical thing, really not producing anything, and one of these days when the death will come, we'll realize that we really didn't achieve anything. We started with at point X and we're ending at point X. The whole life has been wasted. So only the people who have little bit of awareness of what's going on and has a desire to come out of it, then spirituality talks to you. Otherwise, the God does not talk to the people who don't want to listen. So it's just from that emphasis, spirituality lectures are important. So, like we said earlier, that we are so much influenced by the organizations, the peoples, the religious groups, and whatever group we belong to, because that dilutes our ego, but at the same time, where in the bead, where everybody is together, in the crowd, and individuality is gone. But at the same time, at the crowd level, you are allowed to do whatever the crowd believes in. So that gives you freedom to express your ultimate animal instincts because you're getting a support from other people. And that's where the individual freedom is kind of gone. Because we inside have our individual spiritual existence that can come out and express itself, but only if it is not smothered by the influences from outside. But we go along and we always look at each other. What does he think? What does she think? Whether she's doing the right thing or not. We try to fit in, blend in, things like that. And we try to get praise from the people who themselves are probably looking for advice from somebody else.
Okay.
So we really never have made a role model of a person who is worthy to be a role model. And every person that we look up to has their own personal motives to achieve their goals. And they are in the same cycle of acquiring, possessing, and getting frustrated and all that. And for a moment, we may think that one person is better than the other, so we look up to him or her to get an advice or whether to tell us whether we are on the right path or not realizing that they themselves are seeking advice from somebody else. So it's really an unending situation. So we really do not have to rely on anybody else. We should be able to make our own rules. Only when we are able to observe the whole life situation in front of us. And when I say observe, it's total independent observation, where if it is right, wrong is wrong, but the answer has to come from within. So for that, you're going to require a lot of thinking.
Meditation.
It's not going to happen, right? Meditation, of course, is very important. It just gives you 15-20 minutes, but I'm talking about a 24/7 awareness of every action that you take, instead of just reflexively doing things, because we always react, but we never act.
Right. Yeah.
Action has to come with full motivation, full knowledge, and full understanding of what you're doing. But when it comes to the, most of our actions are actually reactions, because the outside situation called in, we never had time to think about it, what the crowd was doing it, we did it anyway, like that. So that's what really has to end. Then only true freedom can start. And the thing is that whenever we give importance to the outside world, and outside world is the material world, our interest is focused to the outside. And over there, we're trying to achieve something, whether it's the money, or it's a fame, or a person, or position in the society, whatever. But we don't realize the outside, whatever dollars we're making, there is an even exchange we're paying with our soul dollars. So there is give and take always has to take place. Whatever we're achieving outside, we have to give in something at the spiritual level. And that's a big loss at the spiritual level, because we're losing our freedom. And outside, whatever we achieve, at the end of the life, we give it up anyway. So we really, when we look at the whole machinery that's been set up in the society, we will realize that it's futile to really run after all these objects, more than limited, things that we really need for your existence and for, basic enjoyment. But anything to go beyond that, keep running after again and again and again, it does not take you anywhere. So another factor we talked about is our past experiences affecting our present life. And the present life could have been a lot better, our present moment, but our interference of the past activities, our beliefs about the people, beliefs about the situation prevents us. Because like we just said, we say oh, such and such person, such and such a religion is so bad, so I don't want to deal with this guy anymore, this and that. But you may be missing out the nicest guy around, like that. So present should not be affected by the past or our future projections. When I see a patient, or when you see a customer, and for you, if it's a future motive is only the profit out of, then obviously you're not going to be able to deal with that person on a person-to-person basis. And that's why I said, how do you get involved? You have to get involved at the current level, at the bhav level. Because the motives, ideas, all these things are material. But bhav is spiritual. So that's why I said, like how you enjoy a flower. You touch it, you smell it, you appreciate the beauty of it, but to really enjoy the flower, you become a flower. And then you can say that you really had a good time. Even artificial, you try it one of these days. You just close your eyes and imagine you're a flower and you're moving around and you're swaying in the wind. It's like joy that comes out. Because at that time, when I say you become a flower, means you don't exist. The pleasure that you will get is not of the flower, not from the flower, not swaying in the wind. But the pleasure that you're going to be getting is dropping of your ego. The ego is your identification. That's why we enjoy the vacations. Why do we enjoy vacations? We go to a place where nobody knows us. So you can dress up whatever you want. Whether somebody says hello to you or not doesn't matter. You are totally in unknown surroundings, right? So over there, your ego has very limited value. So that's why people enjoy the vacation, because all the strains which are put on you based on your identifications are tremendous in your daily life. That's why people want to escape and want to go on vacation. And rightfully so, but never realizing it's not the place where you go to. It's not the whatever place you went to for vacation, or whether it was Bahamas or Caribbean, or it doesn't matter. Wherever you can drop your ego faster. That's why I always say, when I used to take vacation, then I used to have beeper service. The moment I shut off the beeper, even if I'm in the middle of Manhattan, full of traffic, I enjoyed it. Because as soon as, even the beeper is not going off, but psychologically you are tired, that it can go off at any time. And that's my responsibility. Me, as a physician, its responsibilities are tied in. So that's what the problem is. So whenever you blend with the object or the person, you are really blending at the bhav level. See, we have to realize that bhav level is the only level the Paramatma or the God understands, because he doesn't know our language, but the bhav is the language of the God. And the reason is, bhav is beyond the boundaries. When you love someone, you're jumping out of your body, because for you, you are less important now. Your son or your wife or your brother or your friend becomes more important. People give up their lives for their loved ones, right? So at that time, their own importance is very little. So it is like in the world where you don't love, you're really never gonna see Paramatma ever. Because the first condition to meet Paramatma is to drop your ego. Until you drop ego, it's not gonna happen. So this is like an exercise. So Ramanujan was a famous saint, and one guy came to him and asked him, he says, show me the path to the God. So Ramanujan says, have you loved someone? He says, no, I don't believe in all this worldly stuff. Because we have really spoiled the name of love so much that a true unconditional love, we never believe it, never have experienced it, and never want to deal with it. So for us, love also has become a transaction. I love you as long as you love me. As long as you are good to me. As long as you say bad words or behave in act in certain way, forget it. Then I'm out of your life. So that's what, for love has become a business. So we have never, so love itself has lost so much value. So this guy says, no, I don't believe in all this worldly stuff. He says, think about it. Anything, ever. I'm not talking about just your love, maybe a cat or a cow or a dog or something. So no, I don't want to waste my time in all this worldly stuff. I want to meet God. Ramanujan cried at that point. He says, I really feel sorry for you. If you never experienced earthly love, you will never get God. So love is one of the easiest way to drop your ego. And it is therapeutic. Just for yourself. It may not help anybody else, may help, may not help. That's not the point. The point is really helping you in samadhi.
Correct.
It's so much easier to love someone rather than trying to convince your ego that, oh, this is again, see, we talk about all these big stories and big philosophical facts, then this is all illusion, these are all atoms and molecules rotating around. It's so dry and dull, right? It's just scientific discussions. And then he says, yes, because the E equal to mc square, energy equal to mass. So all this is non-existent, it's just the energy. So there is nothing to love. I mean, there is nothing to really gain, there is nothing to lose. So just forget about all things, just love the energy. It's such an arduous way of reaching to Paramatma.
Abstract.
A very abstract way, and really have to convince. A lot of these arguments have to take place at mind level, because everything is mind. Now you are really trying to convince the mind, and mind has been created for thousands of years. Mind knows only the business. What is it in for me? Because he wants to keep the ego alive. So it is a tough way of dealing with the problem of the ego. Because if you want to drop the ego, but the easier way is to just love. Loving someone is where you drop your own ego and become that person. Whether you are with your wife or your spouse, your children, or your friends, you become them. And the magic starts. Even for a short time, every day, you can practice it. All of a sudden, every single thing that person is saying becomes important to you. Because you are speaking it. Whatever her concern or his concerns are, yeah, there may be a point there. Right? Previously, there would be, sometimes you listen to a patient, and half of the, because some people are just used to complain so much, then psychologically says, oh, maybe, okay, you're fine. So otherwise they are healthy people. But then all of a sudden you put yourself in their shoes. Oh yeah, let me take a look at it at least. So all of a sudden your outlook in life changes. And more than anything else, the life becomes beautiful. Life becomes so enjoyable. And without even realizing, you inching closer and closer to samadhi. Because that's the whole objective in the samadhi, is to drop your ego. So we can make the life as dry as possible. They say that why do we have to worship Ganges, right? It's only water, right? And water, you can divide it into H2O, two molecules of hydrogen, one atom of oxygen, and that's about it. So why worship it? So that's the thing. Nobody says that you have to worship, but when you worship, life becomes beautiful. Then you have a respect. The thing is that to live at a bow level, it's not just the people I'm talking about. At every single moment, we can live in a bow level. You wake up in the morning and you see the sunrise. It's not just for the beauty of it, but look how much we're getting out of sun. Without sun, we would not exist. So you immediately make an offering. Whether you do it physically or not, it doesn't matter. But at least inside, if the bow comes of gratitude towards a sun, which is a life-giving thing for us. So with that gratitude, you become humble. And then you take a shower. You appreciate every single water droplet that is falling on you. And thank God for giving you the water, such a cleaning, such a life-giving thing. 70, 80, 90% of your body is water. So every sip of water you take, every food that you eat, every single level you can be appreciative of whatever you're getting. And that, at that bow level, you won't even have time to think about what you are, what you want. All of a sudden, your needs, your demands start dropping. So that's a bow samadhi. And bow samadhi is very much close to the ultimate enlightenment, So this is how, so even if you sit on a beach, every single grain of sand will be touching you, and you'll be getting the coolness of the sand. Every single ocean wave that's coming to you, it becomes a beautiful sight. Every single breeze that comes in brings the life-giving oxygen to you. So at that moment, you are really in synchronization with the whole consciousness. So the whole cosmic intelligence, you breathing in, breathing out. So you become part of the total consciousness. Has nothing to your individuality, it just drops. And that's why in Hinduism and a lot of other religions, I'm sure they had offerings every time. Grandma used to wake up and give the offering to the sun, and
My
everything
mom
had
always
right.
give.
Yeah, give.
She give food to the
Right.
Water to the sun.
Right, exactly. Water offerings and things like that. So all these things have a meaning, and only if the meaning is at the bow level, though. But there are people who would do it mechanical also, and that's where they goof out, right? That's where their mistake is. So whatever you do externally, if you do mechanically, it's not going to have any meaning until you do at the bow level. And the bow level, things start changing. That's why I said all these robes which were given to, like Buddhists wearing yellow robes, and Rajnees were wearing saffron color robes, and Jains wearing white robes. All these colors had meaning. The yellow was the color of fire that destroys all your ignorance and all your impurities. The same thing, the saffron color robe is a sunrise or sunset to remind you. Or same thing, yellow color also was represented a dying leaf that's going to turn into brown and then eventually get destroyed. So it shows that this is the time to wake up and try to do something for yourself spiritually. So all this with understanding, if that thing stays in their mind, that's what I call bow samadhi. At the bow level, you should be yellow or saffron or white. Inside, not necessarily outside. Then outside doesn't matter. Bow is already inside, but you can do both right then. So that's the only way. The another way is also, like I said, that we have to be synchronizing with the present, and for that we have to drop the past, because consciousness is creating all the time. Constant, new molecules, new atoms, new everything is being created. There is the universe is expanding, galaxies are running away from each other at tremendous speed. The universe is expanding, and this is only one universe that we know. So there are a lot of activities happening all the time. There is nothing quiet anytime. So the only time the consciousness can do all these things, if it keeps on breaking its connections to the past, if it keeps on looking at back whatever was created. If you see the evolution coming from all the way tiny amoeba all the way to the human being, there is not a single animal repeated. There is always something new coming up all the time. So God cannot say, I'm going to go back and create another amoeba now, which will look like human being and things like that, and So it's nothing, not looking at the past. So at the consciousness level, our synchronization to the present is extremely important. And that can happen only if we really break our connections with the past. Why do we have connection with the past? If you really trace it, it comes down to likes and dislikes. Whenever we when we come across a situation in front of us, we label it as with our mind, likes and dislikes. The likes we enjoy, and even if it becomes a past, we want more of it. And dislike, we hate, and we hate it so much that we protect ourselves so that that thing never comes back in our life again.